Here we go. Let's learn about America's dark truth.
See you in a couple weeks, Creole.
Small people like us, right?
And they also say the actual richest people in the world aren't on the world's rich lists.
No, of course they won't be on the rich list.
Oh, hell no.
Those are the chota mota log.
Why would they be on that list? Why?
Exactly.
They wouldn't be on that
You
list.
think a trillionaire want people to know he's got a trillion?
I don't want you to know how much money I got. Get out of here. Put the rest of the people on the list.
Dude, if I had that much money to be that powerful, you think
Bro.
anybody know who the hell we are now?
Listen, man.
the small fry, the small fish, the ones who are on the rich list. And the ones who are on the rich list, the top 2%, they aspire to move to the next level, to achieve nirvana and go to the higher plane of existence. Among the true rich.
That's why they're afraid of Elon Musk, because he's about to go into that next tier.
That's a lot of money to be having. Oh, damn.
You see what I mean?
I'd be
That
afraid.
makes a lot of sense
Ooh,
of why
what
they
is
attack
that?
him and they don't want him to be involved in that power struggle.
Did you see that?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a big ass bug.
See what you're talking about.
It's over there. I don't know what that
It's
shit was.
chilling over there somewhere.
But no, I agree with you. I see what you're saying, Vito. Like,
That's
a lot of money.
But that makes sense of why they would go after a guy like him and attack him. He's known.
I'd be afraid to have $1 billion, man. I'd be afraid.
Yeah.
If I'm being dead ass honest, man, I'd be afraid to be that rich.
I'd be a billion, imagine $1 trillion.
Bro, I'd be live streaming from underground. Okay, I'd find a way to do it. Like, I don't need you to know where I'm at. Just know I'm here. Okay?
Yep.
So that's what people claim, that these are the conspiracy theories out there.
Okay, do you wish to talk a little bit more about Bill Clinton, or do you wish to talk about George W. Bush?
Well, George W. Bush has been one of the most entertaining presidents of the US. Bill Clinton was the red-blooded Democrat, but George W. Bush was the gaffe-prone president. Really funny guy, unintentionally. So, yeah, he came to power after George W. Bush, which year was it? 2000. And it was a very, very, very narrow election victory against Al Gore.
Yeah.
It went down to the wire. But eventually George W.
Yeah, because he only won by like 600 votes or something like that, wasn't it?
I believe something like that.
Yeah.
Jr. Came to power, and he spent the first few months playing golf and doing whatever.
And then 9/11 happened.
And then 9/11 happened. Those planes flew themselves apparently into the World Trade Center towers. Terrible night. I remember it very vividly because I kind of saw it almost live. The second plane. So yeah, so that happened, and so that's when George W. Bush had to man up, become the president finally, and he said that we're gonna smoke them out. You're either with us or against us. He launched an invasion of Afghanistan first, and Pakistan was the linchpin behind that invasion. It all went through Pakistan. Yeah.
I gotta stop this conversation for just a bit. Have you seen the Netflix documentary on 9/11? So it's called Turning Point 9/11. Very heavy watch where they have actual witness accounts, etc., etc. Makes you really understand the gravity of how intense that terrorist attack was.
Oh yeah.
We had a pretty intense terrorist attack back in 2008 in India.
Yes.
The 26/11 attack. This was also very brutal in its own way. In saying that, and I'm trying to say this in the most empathetically aware state of mind. There are conspiracy theories spoken about all over the world that possibly even this was an orchestrated attack to be able to fuel or hasten up the next big geopolitical move.
Yeah.
And I know this is a very controversial statement. And I say this with deep empathy as well as sensitivity to the situation. But I would also like to have a bit of a commentary on this angle. Do you have anything to say so?
Yes, so many people, they would be termed conspiracy theorists. They have alleged that maybe this was an inside job. Some people have claimed, I've seen this in
I've
various
heard that.
documentaries.
I've heard that too.
At some point in time, that there were, those demolition charges were placed in the building, and when it came down, it was like a controlled demolition. The building did not come down at an angle; it came down.
Yeah, straight.
Like,
Yeah,
as
I've
if it
heard
was a
that
controlled
one.
demolition. That's what they have alleged. Some people said there was another building right next to the World Trade Center towers that also came down mysteriously for no reason whatsoever. Then they say that when the Pentagon
That's
was
the
hit,
one.
Building 7.
That's the one
Yeah.
that he was talking.
I mean, the 9/11 conspiracies that I've heard are the reason. I remember when I was going to get my undergraduate, I read this book. It was called the 9/11 Commission's Report. I forget who the author was, but it's very thin. The whole book was like literally this thin, but it explained how one of the reasons for 9/11 happening, for the planes going into the Twin Towers, is the attack that happened in the 90s on one of our ships.
Mm-hmm.
Supposedly, the reason why 9/11 occurred was Bin Laden didn't like how the U.S. reacted to the attack in the 90s. So I'm like, how the fuck did you want people to react? You blew somebody's shit up. Like, what did you? But then I have seen the one where, how come if the plane hit this way, how come it didn't go over? It went straight down. But then I've seen people try to debunk that and say because it got so hot that it just
collapsed.
It collapsed. I've seen the I've heard the demolition tape one. I've heard that one. Another one that I heard, I don't know how true this is, but supposedly like 3 days before the attack happened, there was like a warning, like Bin Laden gave warning, or someone in Bin Laden's infrastructure thing gave warning to the United States that it was going to happen, and America supposedly ignored it. Like they didn't take it seriously enough.
Yeah, that sounds like a George.
That's I don't know how true it is. That's just what I heard over time.
It just sounds like George Bush's administration.
So I don't know how true that one, but if it's just talking about the conspiracies of it, those are the ones I've heard.
Terrible president. George Bush was a terrible president.
Like, well, yeah.
where is the evidence of the plane? You don't see a single engine. You don't see any superstructure of the tail or whatever, any wings.
I don't know if you guys saw it. Me and my parents, we were eating dinner. This was a couple years ago, but this was like 9/11 was 2001. It's 2024 now, so this had to be. I think this was like early in the 2020s. Was this during Biden's administration?
Wait, you said 2020?
I'm trying to remember if it was during Trump's that this report happened, or if it was. It might have been during Trump's presidency. It might. But anywho, it was regarding the 9/11 attack. There was like somebody was walking through like an alley in New York City, and they found like a big ass piece of like the engine or a wing from one of the planes that hit the towers that had just been chilling in an alley up against the wall for like 10 fucking years.
What?
It was just chilling there.
No shit.
It was, yeah. And someone was like, what the fuck is this? And they had the investigation, and the people who investigated were like, this was part of the plane from 9/11. And me and my mom looked at each other like,
What?
How?
that was sitting there for 10 years and no one fucking knew that. And it wasn't like no small piece. Like it was the height of a building, just leaned up against the building. It was just chilling there. And I'm like, you're telling me for a whole decade, no one saw that shit?
People were like, that's just part of the building, bro. Just keep on walking.
No one thought
Is
that
there
was
pictures of this?
Yeah, it was. This was on like CNN News, it was on CNN, Fox, like ABC World News and shit like
I
that.
don't remember.
That-
And I'm like, you're telling me that was sitting there for a decade,
I don't believe that.
and no one knew that?
I don't believe that for a second.
I'm like, okay, now I'm starting to believe conspiracies, because how does that sit there for 10 years?
Now I gotta look it up and see.
Yeah, it was weird. Even me and my
When was
mom
this?
looked at each other like, that
When-
doesn't
when
make
was-
sense.
3 years, I could give it.
This was, I don't, correct me.
2020? Was that
It was over 6
Look,
years, Liz.
We'll look it up after we get through another 5 minutes.
Yeah, it was over 6 years. I don't know. It was sitting there for a long ass
We
time.
got 12 minutes of this one.
You just see a destroyed building. When it comes to the other flight that went down in a field, you don't see any trace of an aircraft. When an aircraft crashes for whatever reason, you see traces of aircraft parts, engines typically, wings, windows. You would see luggage, you would see bodies of people. There was nothing there. So these are some claims people have made. And from the photographs, it looks like they are accurate claims. So the question truly is, what really happened? Now, I am not one of those people who claim that this is true because I don't have sufficient evidence to prove it this way or that way. So
Fair
I
enough.
think one would have to stick with the official theory, or the official claim is that the planes, there were 4 planes. 2 at the World Trade Center towers, 1 at the Pentagon, and 1 went down in a field because the people wrestled the pilots down and they made the plane crash. So yeah, there is a lot of ambiguity. The Pentagon doesn't show any images. The photographs of the Pentagon don't show any evidence of a plane there. There's even a video, a static camera
What I said
video,
earlier. Yeah.
closed circuit TV camera or whatever, which captured the moment of impact. You just see a big orange explosion. You don't see any plane there. So that's kind of very, very perplexing. Again, in the field, there's no plane debris. There's just a big hole in the ground which is burned up. So kind of makes you wonder what it is. But there's not sufficient evidence to prove that something else happened. But yeah, some people claim it's an inside job, and who knows?
I have to ask you about Afghanistan, Iraq, and even Syria. Do you think that there's anything that ties these 3 countries together? Ooh, dangerous question. Well, your news media is not going to tell you these things.
Well, Iraq was about the unfinished business of the First Gulf War. Iraq is an oil-rich place. So is Kuwait. Now, Kuwait was liberated in 1991-92, thereabouts. Iraq was still under Saddam Hussein. So the son wanted to finish what his father could not finish. George W. Bush,
It's like a family thing.
it looks like it was a family thing. So George Bush, the junior, wanted to finish what his dad could not finish. His dad defeated the Iraqis, but he could not oust Saddam Hussein. So 2003 was the new invasion, and eventually Saddam was captured the next year and he was executed the year after that. And the Americans got full control of Iraq. They brought democracy into the country. They bombed democracy into the people, and they exploited all the oil riches and all that.
Yeah, I don't think the atrocities of the Iraq war are spoken about by American news media. I remember as a kid, my grandparents would watch a lot of CNN and BBC, and it was a very unilateral narrative. War on terror, war on terrorism, Saddam this, terrorists here. It would always portray the opponent in a very negative light. And even as a kid, I used to question the nature of war, that no human being can be completely evil or completely good. There's got to be gray on both sides. I want to ask you about the gray on the side of Iraq, on the side of Afghanistan, and on the side of Syria. And in fact, I want to ask you about the gray or the good on the side of all these countries that were supposedly ruled by dictators, like Libya, like Egypt, all these dictatorial stories
crazy.
that we hear in the recent past. What's the truth? America has been involved directly or indirectly with all these countries. Let's give our American viewers some sort of an objective, neutral narrative.
So when it comes to dictatorships, there is political stability as long as the dictator is in power, properly in power. He's got an iron grip on the country. That can go on for decades if you have the right person in power. And that is great if you want a client state. If you have a country that's rich in resources, let's say full of oil, then you would want a monarchy to be there, a dynasty. So even when the dad dies, his son will come to power and continue the same policies. Or you may want to have a dictator like Saddam Hussein or Muammar Gaddafi or whoever else, or what's his name? Hosni Mubarak in Egypt, for instance. So such people are great if you want that country as a client state. That gives you long-term political stability. Democracy is messy. You never know what's going to happen in the next election cycle. Somebody may come to power who's against you. In that case, you cannot continue the same relationship you had with them earlier. That's why the US is always invested in tyrants. And Henry Kissinger, the former Secretary of State during Nixon's time, infamously said that he may be a son of a bitch, referring to somebody, but he's our son of a bitch. He's our son of a bitch. That's why we must support him. We must never say anything bad about him. I don't remember whom he was referring to, but clearly one of those in-pot dictators that the US...
I
propped up
kinda
from
See
time
what
to
he
time.
means?
I kind of get what he means if you're comparing dictatorship versus, at least with a dictatorship, you know what the fuck you're getting.
You know who you're dealing with on
Yeah.
a day-in basis.
In a democracy, you don't always know what the next president's gonna do.
Exactly.
I get what he's
Constantly changing
saying.
Relationships.
It's a surprise.
That doesn't mean I'm saying, oh, make America dictatorship. That's not what I'm saying.
We don't want
I'm just
that.
comparing.
That's why America likes working with dictators.
Yeah, but the way he's comparing,
Well,
I get it. I get what he's saying.
Our deep state likes working with dictators.
Yeah, like I get what he's saying.
Trump didn't like working with dictators.
I get what he's saying though. It's like
Biden
in a
doesn't like
monarchy. At
dealing
least
with
you know.
dictators. He has to work with them.
Yeah, at least you know what the family's gonna do. And a
Right.
dictator, like you know what they're gonna do.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you have a relationship with the dictator doesn't mean you like them.
That's true.
You got to work with these people because they are still the leaders of
Yeah,
a country that can.
because even when you're president, don't get me wrong, you got to protect 300 million people,
Yeah.
but you also got to work with the leaders of every other country that's on the planet.
Yes, while still making sure your people's interests are first.
Exactly. So
Which-
you're dealing with other democracies, other communists, other dictatorships. You're dealing with all that shit.
Yeah, well, we had one
Which one
president.
now?
We had
Which
one
one now
president.
is that's failing right now. The interest for America is not happening. Like,
When's the last time Biden put Americans' interests first?
yeah, America first, and everybody else. Then you could help your neighbor. No, you're helping the neighbor and held to
Now, please,
held to your family. You know what I'm saying?
in the last 4 years, when was America put first?
We have sent a lot of money, like a lot,
Mm-hmm.
like a lot, like not a little,
A lot.
a lot, and like a lot, like it's been a lot,
And
man.
the thing is, they're supposed to work for us, not us work for them. So, and then they're taking and they're doing whatever they want to do with the money, which is, it's wrong.
Oh, who's coming home? Oh yeah, someone's coming home in a few days. Oh.
Is it one of the boys?
But damn, it's crazy how much money we sent in 4 years.
Yeah.
Like a lot.
Has your life gotten better in the past 4
Like,
years? Jan, that's what I was
oh,
wondering.
Jen, that's cool.
That's nice.
That's cool. That's what's up.
Oh,
It'd be
Well-
nice when they're all back together and get to be doing
Yeah,
new music.
but
Oh,
again.
like
man, I
sometimes I
know.
get those alerts where like, oh, Congress just proved this much to go overseas, and I gotta refresh the page, man. I gotta close the app, open it back up, refresh. I'm like, we
said what?
We said how much over there? I'm like, we got starving kids, bro. We just sent what to who? I'm like, damn.
As long as we have military veterans that are sleeping in the street, we shouldn't be sending a dime anywhere.
exactly.
Oh, and he's coming home just before BTS 11th anniversary, which is on the 13th. That what a welcome home.
That is a nice welcome.
Yeah, what a welcome home.
Who's
But
the next
clearly
one?
one of
Yeah,
the next one
who has to
leave?
go over there next? Yeah.
those tin pot dictators that the US props up from time to time. Chile is another example. Argentina is another example. Dictators everywhere. And the US, it's good for the US if you have dictators like that. So they talk about democracy and they preach democracy, but they prop up dictators. That's been their track record over the past 50, 60 years.
It's like having a goon if you're the godfather.
Yeah.
Goon
Yeah.
to do your job. Goon to give you
Damn.
the
Exactly.
extortion money that
America's the Godfather. They
That's
have their goons everywhere.
That's
Typically what you do
You
crazy.
don't have to
Install
worry
a
about
dictator in
them
power.
being taken out
You
of power.
give them certain wonderful perks and
That's crazy, man.
Unless we take them out of power.
Power, yeah. That's wild.
So we deal with dictators until they don't want to deal with us, and then we change it to who we want to have in power.
That's crazy.
That's
That's
some
just
bullshit.
bro. Like,
Dude, if our country cared and actually focused on our population
Ah!
as much as they did these fucking dictators and propping up these countries all over the world, do you know where we'd be?
bro, that's insane. oh, we like this dictator because he does what we want. We'll keep. Oh, you over there, you don't want to act right? Yo, overthrow that shit right now. That's crazy. Damn. Oh, they all went, Vito. They all went.
Oh, they all went at the same time. Oh, that's right. They all went at the same time.
That's right. Yeah. So J-Hope should be coming home next. Damn.
I don't know why I thought like 3 went and then 3 went
Yeah.
and then 3 went.
Yo, the money. When they put out that next project, Stacks about to just.
I don't know why I thought they went in like pairs or something.
Yeah, the views about it just.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they're about to be right back.
Benefits that as an individual, you would treasure, but in exchange for that, they have to sell their soul. They have to sell their country's
7 of them.
resources
9.
to the US. That's what happened in Iraq. That's
My math
what
wasn't
happened.
mathing.
In the case of Egypt, it was the Suez Canal, which was vitally important as a
This is crazy.
geopolitical choke point, and various other places in Africa. Some places you had uranium, like Patrice Lumumba was killed off and some other dictator was put in place for uranium. In other places, it's diamond. Some places, it's gold. It's always resources. It's always control. And that's what goes on. That's a play.
I got to speak to the scientist in you here. You're someone who does study our planet as well. Have we kind of maxed out our search for resources, or do you think there's still a lot of resources to be found?
I think there is still a lot more to be found. For instance, we are in the age of electric vehicles. And every single battery that you have in your cell phone, in your electric car, electric vehicle or whatever, it's a lithium-ion battery. Correct? Now, lithium is something that's quite abundantly available, but it's very messy to extract out of the earth. So it causes a lot of environmental damage. Now there's a new technology coming up. It's called sodium-ion batteries. Sodium is also plentifully available, but you don't need to mine it. You just go to the sea and pull it out of the sea. Salt, sodium chloride. So there's new technology always coming up, and there's more to extract. There's so many more resources in the planet that we are not aware of yet. There are still to be found. So there's a lot more exploration that's going to happen. There could be lots of major oil and gas reserves that we in India have not discovered.
Yeah.
It's very much possible. So there's a whole lot that still is going to happen in this planet.
Okay. And depending on the times that we live in, the technology that's at the forefront, do the top geopolitical powers change their agenda, or the countries that they're targeting to either economically colonize / go to war with? Is that a massive angle for going to war, according to you?
Yes, typically you would want to achieve that without any messy war. But if that doesn't work, you can always engineer a war somewhere, a conflict somewhere. So there's always a geopolitical angle.
Yeah, it's not easy to start a war.
No.
I mean,
It is
sorry.
easy to start a war.
It's not hard. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's very easy to start a war.
Yeah. Sorry, it's not hard. I should have said. Yeah, my bad. Tongue twister. But yeah, it's not hard to make two people.
It's
beef.
hard to end a war.
Yeah, it's hard. Thank you.
It's hard to have peace.
Yeah, it's easy to make people not like each other.
Yeah.
That's simple.
The hardest thing in the world to do is maintain peace.
Yeah.
Resource angle. Sometimes it's oil, sometimes it's diamond, sometimes it's gold, sometimes it's uranium, sometimes it's something else. Sometimes it's that your enemy is encroaching there and I want to mess up the place so that the enemy doesn't get control over the place, like in Syria.
Yeah.
So Syria was a very nice, wonderful, peaceful place. Assad was ruling it as a dictator. Well, there are dictators everywhere. Why target this one specific dictator? Because he's not democratic. There are so many other dictatorships that the US is perfectly happy with. What about Saudi Arabia? Isn't that the biggest hereditary dictatorship, one of the biggest ones on our planet? They are fine with that. But Assad is somehow bad. And they tried to overthrow him, but Vladimir Putin intervened. And he was able to stabilize the country. And lots of so-called rebel groups were fighting against Assad, including Al-Qaeda, including ISIS. Aren't these extraordinarily evil organizations that the US was after at some point in time? How come now they are fighting against Assad and Putin and on the side of the US? Isn't that kind of strange?
That's
So that's
crazy.
the kind of game that's always been played.
What's happening in Syria right now?
Syria spiraled into conflict about 12 or so years ago, 2009, 10, 11. Around that period of time, we started hearing the reports of a civil war in Syria. And the objective was to
Alina,
topple
good question.
the Assad regime.
Huh?
Good
To
question.
get started in data analytics, you don't need previous experience or a degree. The Google Data Analytics Certificate.
And to put some
You see, the problem is we need all of it together to be able to advance technology, not just use one or the other.
Yeah.
If we got to keep expounding and building on, so we don't use as much. Because what if all of a sudden we focus all on the salt water, we're extracting everything out of our oceans, and we're depleting our world's water?
Yeah.
Because we're no longer using oil or fission or anything, because we're just using all the water.
Too much of one thing is bad.
No, unfortunately, we
You
need
have to
the
have a
iron.
even
There's
distri-
gotta be a balance.
Exactly. There
Yeah.
has to be a balance.
That's why when they're saying, "Oh, we everybody should get electric cars," I'm like, no,
Yeah, but them shits are expensive,
no,
man.
no. It's not only that because you're using what are you using coals?
Yeah, you're still
Sorry,
you're burning even more coal and oil to charge the car.
Exactly.
Just because you're not filling it up at the pump.
You gotta
Yeah.
have
Nah, I see
other
what you.
yeah.
Did
Use gas and use
because
electric.
most people don't understand
Mhm.
what is the power company burning to generate that power to get to your house.
Yeah. I see what you.
Just because you
Yeah.
plug something into the wall, how did that power get there?
Get there, yeah.
Or how does your avocado get over here?
Dude.
For those people that
Ah,
So I see what you're
against-
saying, Lena. You are completely correct. We
There-
should be using other forms of things,
Yeah.
but we should also be figuring out how they work together.
Pack.
What works better for this? Oil might be better for this, but this is better for this. We're never going to be able to stop using oil because literally everyone look around your house right now.
Everybody got a furnace.
Not even that. Oil.
Hey,
Yeah,
Oil.
excuse me.
The computer you're looking at. Oil.
Be careful with my phone. What you
yeah.
doing?
That's
All
it.
of this is because of oil.
Yeah.
Oil is not just going in your car. The
Yeah.
plastics, the rug you're walking in, the synthetic fibers. How do you think they make the synthetic fibers?
Oil. Yeah.
It's not just the fuel for the cars. That's what everyone thinks. I'm not saying
We-
you,
we
not you,
need-
Alina. I'm not just talking about you.
We need
Most
to
people in
like
general.
relook at how we're distributing the
Yeah.
oil.
Yeah.
Right. If we can use something, if we find out something else that's even better for fueling cars than oil, that means we're not using it as much for that because it's using it for other stuff.
Yeah, it helps to. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
So I'm not just trying to attack you on that at all, Alina. You made a great point there. We should be using salt water and other stuff to figure out how to make things more efficient.
Because who knows? You could use another resource to make you can use one resource to make another resource last longer.
You can combine 3 resources and make a super resource.
That too.
You won't know until you can see what happens.
Yeah.
That's what experimentation is for. Thanks for stopping and spending time with us today, y'all. Hit that notification bell and give it a share because it does help the channel out.
Please and thank you.
See you guys in the next one.
Later, y'all.
Peace.
Bye.